Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Giglio, principal of Homestead High School, and I'm coming to you from the field house today. So, you know, changing up my location every time just to make it a little bit more interesting. So, uh, we're going to get started on our video today. So let me pull up the PowerPoint, which is right here. Let me get it big enough so you can see it. There you go. So again, today is October 9th, and want to let you know that I'm actually going to put out a new survey. The Rosebud survey has been great, but the responses are starting to trickle off. I only got a couple this week, and I got a couple last week. We have received over 100 different responses, but want to just maybe try and freshen things up a little bit. So I'm going to send out a new survey. It's included in this email where you find this video. But you'll see these are some of the questions. We're going to ask you to rate how Homestead's doing, kind of why you picked that number, what's been valuable, what might still be lacking here at Homestead, and maybe what would you say if somebody asked you about Homestead, and if you have any other questions or concerns that I can answer for you. And again, you'll also have the option to do a public or a private response. So please keep an eye out for that. And again, I hope to get a lot of new responses and can add to our continuing communication here. So for our roses this week, we have several, and they're really nice messages. So again, I cut and paste the whole thing. And the first one says, I appreciate how upbeat and positive all the teachers and staff have been. It's really nice to log on to class and see the amount of enthusiasm and patience that the teachers still have. And I agree, it's been a tough slog for a lot of us, but our teachers are great, our staff is great, and so I'm glad that you are seeing the same things. There was also a nice thank you for these weekly messages. It's been very informative to hear me walk through some of the concerns that other people are having. Because again, it's nice to hear maybe that some other people are on the same boat or having some other questions or roses as you. So I'm glad we're able to do that. Another person said again that they appreciate the survey. Hope they appreciate the new survey. And then finally, there was a student who talked about they really appreciated how interactive the AVID program was. And our 4 AVID teachers are in grades from 9 through 12, Miss Owsley, Mr. Ratty, Miss Vakili, and Miss Rivera. So again, wanted to thank them for their great work. Couple of buds, which are our ideas, thoughts, or suggestions. Someone said, could we set aside time in the advisories for students to talk more and teachers to talk more in terms of interacting together? And that is some feedback that we have gotten through in the last couple of weeks, and we're definitely trying to build the advisory so there is more time for discussion and not being talked at as much. So hopefully these next few you'll start to see that. So that is a great idea, and we're definitely taking that one on. Someone also asked about, could you reconsider how breakout rooms are organized on Zoom? And so they didn't give much more information than that. So I'm assuming that there may be some questions about, who gets put in what groups or what roles are given. That is an ongoing conversation that we continue to have with teachers and staff about how to organize, how to engage students in those areas. Obviously, there can be some concerns with Zoom breakout rooms if students aren't working or aren't collaborating together, but it is a very common tool to do some work together as a group, to have the teacher come in and out. We're definitely looking at ways to strategize that, so I will pass that along. And also someone just said, could you ask the teachers to include some more stretch breaks? It's very hard sitting and staring at the screen all day. And I can certainly empathize with that one, having spending most of my day these days on Zoom and doing these kinds of things. So I will definitely put that information out as well. So here gets to our Thorns, issues, questions, and concerns. This person wrote, I'm not a fan of Schoology. Was it just chosen for the assessment function? And no, not just for the assessment function. There were a lot of things that we really liked about this. One of it was that it was relatively easy to use and very compatible with Google. And as we're getting deeper into Schoology, we are finding there's some complexities to it, but ultimately it is a very simple tool to use. There are very collaborative tools in here, both for students to work together as well as teachers to work together and teachers to work with students. And that was something that was not available through School Loop. So that has been a big plus. It also has more functions than School Loop. School Loop, had some basic things, but we really would not have been able to do a lot of the work that we're doing on remote learning that we're able to do through Schoology. This person also wrote that they missed the graph of progress from School Loop. And then if you remember on School Loop, there used to be a little thing above your progress reports that said, you're in that specific class. I had an A here and it went down to a B and then back up to an A. So this student appreciated and parent appreciated seeing that progress. And that is not a function that's on Schoology. So I don't have a way to I can ask the Schoology to see if they can look into that, but that's not something that we're able to do at this time. There was a question about what is finals going to look like? How are we going to do that? Because if you remember last semester, when we were in the emergency situation of remote learning, we did not hold any finals. We instead chose to teach all the way through to the final day and maybe have smaller, shorter assessments along the way. This year, in the fact that we are, in a much more rigorous and robust semester, we are in the process of discussing how we do finals, because there is a question of whether you need the full 2 hours. Like in a typical final schedule, you do 2 finals in a day, you do 2 hours each time. And so is that needed, or can we go with a regular schedule where there's the hour and a half, the traditional 90-minute block, and can the finals get done there? So again, we are having the same schedule across all 5 sites. So it is a conversation that's happening at all 5 sites. I just can't pick something and say, this is what we're going to do. So there is conversations going on right now. And that information should be coming out really shortly. So again, we're still going to be going all the way through to the end. It's just how we finish up, whether we're in regular blocks or in testing blocks. So we'll find that out soon. This thorn came, I think, from our conversation last week when I was talking about the tardies, and when there's this such thing as the truant tardy, or a 30+ minute tardy, and this person asked, can that be excused like an absence? And again, the state is very specific, and when their definitions of what comes as excused or unexcused, and according to the state, no, you cannot excuse a tardy. However, if your parent calls in and says, this is the reason my student was late, we can verify that and put what we call verify. We put a note in there saying this is why they were late. So the teacher can see that and can make a determination of, should they allow the student to make up the work at that time, or is that, if they overslept, that may not be a reason. But if there was, something that happened with the internet or something else, then we can kind of figure that out and help get that as a verified, but it will not show up as an excuse because, again, the state won't allow us to do that. And then someone actually just put they didn't have any thorns, and they thought Homestead was doing a great job. Obviously, we just had a couple thorns there, but I thought it was a nice one to end our thorns on, that this person couldn't think of any thorns. So thank you for that, which is kind of a reverse rose, I guess, if you think about it that way. So since we had just a few short rosebuds and thorns, I thought I would get into some other information. I want to make sure everyone's aware of the new schedule for next week. Monday, October 12th is a non-school day. Students do not go to school. Teachers don't go to school either. And so instead, what's going to happen, we're going to do on Tuesday what's called a skinny day. All 7 classes are going to meet for a shorter period of time. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be the exact same schedules that we run right now. So Wednesday is that asynchronous day with advisories and time to meet in with teachers. That day was deemed really important by staff and by students and parents. We've heard a lot of positive feedback about it. So in the last time we had a 3-day weekend, we took that day out, and people said that was a really hard week. So we're trying it a little differently this week to see how this goes. And while we're thinking about 3-day weeks, although this one's a little bit weirder, the Veterans Day holiday is coming up. Veterans Day, instead of being on a Monday, is actually on a Wednesday. So we are going to take out that Wednesday for that week. So just to keep the schedule kind of going as normal as possible. So during the Veterans Day is November 11th, 11/11, you can always remember that. And then so Monday, Tuesday is going to be the same schedule, and Thursday, Friday will also stay the same. Wanted to also share with you this week's advisory, and this was put together by our mental health team, particularly Sarah Lloyd, our school-based therapist, with help from other school-based therapists and our school psychologists. And it was about managing mental wellness in uncertain times, a very appropriate title and advisory for this time of the year. And so I thought it would be nice to share some of the big highlights of this advisory with you, the parents, and you can talk to your students about what they felt or thought, or where they think they are in these spectrum of things. And again, just, maybe it's even a tool for you to use and kind of understanding where you are during these very uncertain times. So the advisory started off talking about what are some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing during this time. And when we're in these kind of uncertain times, and this is a very uncertain time because there's multiple issues going on, you tend to be more irritable. You may be prone to crying a little bit more. You may be feeling anxious. You may be feeling, I don't want to be part of anything, and so you withdraw. A lot of folks report having difficulty sleeping, even though they might be going to bed early, or maybe they're staying up too late, but they're having a hard time sleeping through the night. Eating can be an issue. Either people don't have an appetite or they're overeating. So it could be one or the other. Unfortunately, in my case, it's been overeating these days. There's difficulty concentrating or focusing. And obviously that's always a problem for our students, but it's maybe even more problematic now being they're sitting and cooped up in their rooms. They may also have an inability to perform or complete tasks. And again, we could probably see bits of ourselves through those symptoms. We also talked about what are the stages in response to a crisis. When something happens, this is what a person kind of goes through. So in that first stage, we call it the heroic stage. This is where people come together. There's lots of activity. There's responsiveness. It's all brand new. It's kind of exciting in a way. Stage 2 becomes the honeymoon phase where, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm doing my thing. I'm part of this community. We're all in this together. It's a shared experience. You know, you've seen those signs. And then you hit the disillusionment phase. And I think this is safe to say we're all in the disillusionment phase right now. This is a fatigue from the crisis. You're like, I am tired of hearing about this. I just want to go back to normal. This hasn't resolved yet. It's saying it's going to resolve, but it hasn't. And we're still doing this. And so again, you can see this is where we are because stage 4 is the recovering and rebuilding. And so we haven't got there. We're just starting to get there because we're starting to move into some better colors on the monitoring list. And so we should be moving into orange here pretty soon. You might start to see some increase of activity, but we're not quite there yet. So we definitely, a lot of us are still feeling pretty disillusioned. And these things are important. So to recognize those symptoms, can say, oh yeah, I'm feeling irritable, or I'm withdrawing. I'm in this disillusionment phase. It's good to put a name on things because that really helps us kind of calm our fears and understand where we're coming from if you can sort of name where you are. So the second half of this advisory was to talk about what are some things that you can do. You know, in uncertain times, people are stressed out because they don't feel they have control. These are some ways to get to gain back some control in your life. Just take care of your basic needs, making sure you are sleeping, that you're eating as healthy as possible. I know it's hard to exercise, but think about ways that you can do exercise. Even short bursts are better than no bursts or just sitting on the sofa. Again, don't take drugs or alcohol. And you know, that might be a common sort of escape for some people, but avoid those because that actually doesn't help you. Treat your illnesses. If you're feeling poorly, go see a doctor, right? Another way is to make sure you are keeping up those connections with your loved ones, your family, your friends. You know, maybe it is through Zoom. I know everyone's tired of Zoom, but it's actually been kind of nice to pick up the phone sometimes to talk to people on the phone or write a letter. You know, that might even be a nice way to make a connection to somebody. You know, people are starting to do socially distanced gatherings. Get in your backyard, sit around, you know, 6 to 10 feet apart with masks on, and you can still see people. So, you know, thinking about ways that you can still be a part of your community, but keeping yourself safe. Also, one bit of advice is to limit your media exposure, right? If you're watching the news 24/7, you're going to hear nothing but bad news. And so that's going to add to your levels of stress. So it's okay to be informed, get a little snacks of news, but make sure that you are kind of keeping that in check and keeping it in balance, right? There's a lot of free resources out there now in terms of yoga and meditation and mindfulness. These are things, if you just Google the thing, free online yoga, you'll find all these different places. And they're really they're fun, they're different. You know, even our own Miss Ronsheimer did some yoga videos. You can always go back on our YouTube channel and check out some of those if you want to try those. But a lot of different calming methods out there to help you kind of center yourself and get mindful. Another strategy is also to maintain fairly consistent routines, right? Making sure you're kind of keeping the same bed and wake up times, that you're still doing the things that you do, whether even maybe you're not going to the gym to work out, but you're picking a time to work out in your backyard or, you know, run up and down the stairs or take breaks, those kinds of things. This next one is actually one of my favorites. Practice gratitude, appreciation, and love. And you know, a lot of times we get caught up in the negative energy of stuff, and we don't sit there and look around at what is positive, what is working in our lives. And if you're having trouble sleeping, this is a really great tool. Actually, I use this one myself. That, you know, you wake up because you're stressed, you're thinking about that email you got to send or that meeting that you're going to be in. Or where am I sitting in terms of food insecurity or job, all those things. But if you stop and start to think about, just list the people that you love or that you are grateful for. And honestly, your brain relaxes, your whole nervous system sort of relaxes, and you go back to sleep. So you're having trouble sleeping, this is my tip for doing so. But again, it also helps us remind us about all the good things that are out there. And also just remember to be kind to yourself. Give yourself a break. That this is uncharted waters we're in. People can point back to like, oh, some people went through the Depression and some people went through World War II or these different things, but we're going through a bunch of things at once. Whether it's the social upheaval, climate change issues with the fires in our state, the election, the pandemic, all these things that are causing huge amounts of stress for us. So again, know that we've never had to go through this. So your reactions are your reactions, but to make sure you're not being too hard on yourself. So again, I hope this advisory update was helpful for you, maybe for your own self, or maybe to be able to talk to your own students, see what their reactions were, see what they might be doing. Maybe you guys can come up with some of your routines or way to do something together. Again, have dinner together, make those routines normal. Maybe you do yoga together. So hopefully, again, you and your family can find some use out of this advisory. Finally, the last part of the advisory was where to also go if you need some additional help. You don't need to fight everything yourself. There are lots of people out there to help. If you see down here at the bottom, it says wellness check-in form. That's a place where you can make a referral to our mental health team, and they will respond to whatever issues are going on and try and help your student. And you can see there's lots of resources on this particular page where the student safety report, if something's going on that the students are feeling unsafe about, they can report it there. There's resources on here. There's some presentations from the guidance department. Also, you'll see the special schedule. So again, a very good place for students and families to check into on our website. So if you find that page, you can find some other resources if you're finding that you are unable to manage your mental wellness in these uncertain times, because we want to help. So at the last slide here, just want to remind you there is no school on Monday. And again, please try out our new survey, send in those things, and you will hopefully see your questions, your responses in the next video. So have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. And I'm going to shut everything down now.